The email came in at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. No subject line, no greeting, just a forwarded document from my mother-in-law's personal attorney. Effective immediately, your role as managing partner of Bellini's has been terminated. Please return all keys, access cards, and proprietary materials within 48 hours. Any attempt to contact staff or vendors on behalf of the restaurant will be considered a breach of contract. At the bottom, one line handwritten and scanned. It's better this way, Gloria. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand. I understood perfectly. I had felt it building for months, the way you feel a storm before you see it. The whispered phone calls that stopped when I entered the room. The sudden recipe changes I wasn't consulted on. My husband Marcus, standing in the kitchen doorway with that look on his face. The one that said he knew something but didn't have the spine to say it. They thought this would break me, that I'd cry into a pillow and quietly disappear. Instead, I closed my laptop, walked into the kitchen, made myself a cup of chamomile tea. Plain, no sugar, no honey. Sat on the back porch and listened to the crickets. Because the thing about being underestimated your entire marriage is that nobody watches what you build in the margins. And I had been building. By midnight, I had already texted my attorney, Diane. She didn't do pleasantries. She did results. By 7 a.m., she had pulled every contract I had ever signed with Bellini's, every vendor agreement with my name on it, every licensing document tied to my original recipes. By noon, we had a strategy. And by the time Gloria woke up and checked her inbox, I had already made 3 phone calls that would change everything. But let me go back, because you need to understand how we got here. I met Marcus at a food festival in Austin. I was 24, running a pop-up taco stand with recipes I'd been developing since I was 16. He was charming, a little lost, working part-time at his mother's Italian restaurant and pretending that counted as ambition. We fell in love fast. Within 6 months, I moved to his hometown just outside Nashville. Gloria welcomed me warmly at first. She called me the one with the gift because the first time I cooked for the family, Marcus's grandmother cried and said it reminded her of meals back in Napoli. That meant something. At least, I thought it did. Bellini's was struggling when I arrived. It had been in Gloria's family for 22 years, a neighborhood staple that was slowly bleeding customers to newer, trendier spots. The menu hadn't changed in a decade. The decor looked like a time capsule from 1998. The Yelp reviews were brutal. Food is fine but nothing special. Feels like eating in someone's outdated living room. Used to be great, now just average. Gloria blamed the economy. Marcus blamed the location. Nobody blamed the food, because nobody in that family could admit the food had gotten lazy. I didn't say any of that. Instead, I offered to help. I started small. A new appetizer here, a revised sauce there. Within 3 months, I had quietly rebuilt 60% of the menu. I kept the bones, the classic Italian framework Gloria was proud of, but I added depth. A smoked chili oil that turned the bruschetta into something people photographed. A hand-pulled mozzarella technique I learned from a YouTube deep dive that took me 47 attempts to master. A tiramisu with a cold brew espresso twist that became our #1 dessert within weeks. I redesigned the plating. I retrained the kitchen staff. I negotiated new deals with local farms for fresher produce at better prices because I drove out to every single one of them and shook hands and tasted their tomatoes in the field. Within a year, Bellini's had a 3-month reservation waitlist. We were featured in Nashville Scene. A food blogger with 500,000 followers called us the most underrated Italian restaurant in the South. Revenue tripled. Gloria bought a new car. Marcus bought a boat. I bought new equipment for the kitchen because that's where my heart was. I didn't ask for credit. I didn't demand my name on the sign. Gloria called herself the owner. Marcus called himself the face of Bellini's, which mostly meant he greeted guests and posted on Instagram. And I was fine with that, truly, because I believed we were building something together. I believed family meant shared success. I believed that being good, being essential, being the reason the lights stayed on, that would be enough. It wasn't. The shift started when Marcus's sister Tanya moved back from Atlanta. She'd spent 5 years doing social media for a real estate agency and now suddenly fancied herself a brand strategist. Gloria treated her return like a coronation. Tanya got an office. I had never gotten an office. Tanya got a title, creative director. I was still listed as kitchen consultant on the company paperwork, despite running every operational aspect of the restaurant. At first, Tanya's changes were cosmetic. New napkins, a playlist overhaul, a logo redesign that cost $4,000 and looked worse than the original. I said nothing because I had learned that silence in this family was currency. If you didn't make waves, you got to keep your spot. Then she started touching the menu. She came to me one morning with a printed spreadsheet. We need to streamline. Too many items. Customers are overwhelmed. She wanted to cut 8 dishes, including the smoked chili bruschetta, our bestseller. I explained the numbers. I showed her the sales data. She smiled and said, I hear you, but Gloria, and I think a cleaner menu tells a better story. Gloria and I. Not the team. Not we all discussed it. Gloria and I. That was the first crack. More followed. I was asked to stop attending vendor meetings because Tanya wanted to consolidate communications. My recipe development notes, which I kept in a personal binder in the kitchen, were photocopied without my permission. I found out when a prep cook mentioned that Tanya had been distributing updated recipe cards to the staff, my recipes, rewritten in her handwriting, with my name nowhere on them. I confronted Marcus. He rubbed his forehead the way he always did when he didn't want to deal with something. Babe, she's just trying to help. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a thing. The phrase that had silenced me for years. Don't make it a thing when Gloria took credit for the menu at a magazine interview. Don't make it a thing when Marcus forgot to mention me in his anniversary toast to the restaurant. Don't make it a thing when Tanya literally erased my name from my own work. So, I stopped making it a thing. And I started making a plan. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I wanted insurance. I started keeping digital copies of every recipe I created. Time-stamped. I backed up every vendor contract with my signature on it. I documented every conversation where my contributions were minimized or erased. I saved emails, screenshots, text messages. Not to weaponize, just to have. Because something in my gut told me the day was coming when I'd need proof that I existed in this story at all. And then came the email at 11:47 p.m. After Diane reviewed everything, she laid it out simply. They made a critical mistake. Your name is on 12 active vendor contracts. You personally hold the licensing agreements for 3 of your original recipes that were filed before the restaurant incorporated them into the menu. And your employment agreement, which Gloria clearly didn't read carefully, includes an intellectual property clause that you insisted on 3 years ago. I remembered that day. Gloria had rolled her eyes when I asked for the clause. What, you think someone's going to steal your pasta sauce? She laughed. Marcus had shrugged. Tanya wasn't even in the picture yet. Yes, Gloria. That's exactly what I thought. Diane continued. You have 30 days to formally withdraw your recipes from commercial use. After that, any restaurant using them without your written permission is in violation. But here's the part they really won't like. The vendor contracts. 4 of your 5 major suppliers have agreements signed by you as the authorized representative. Those agreements have a clause, which you wrote, that requires mutual consent for any transfer of account management. Meaning if you withdraw your authorization, those suppliers can freeze the accounts pending review. I didn't do it all at once. That would have been reckless. Instead, I started with one phone call. Tony, our produce supplier, the one I had personally recruited from a farm 40 minutes outside the city. I called him and said simply, Tony, I'm no longer with Bellini's. I wanted you to hear it from me. Whatever you decide to do going forward is your business, but please review our contract terms before signing anything new. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Nicole, you're the only reason I stuck with them. You want me to hold shipments? Just follow the contract, I said. Nothing more, nothing less. I made the same call to our seafood vendor. Then our specialty imports contact. Then the linen company, because yes, I had negotiated that deal too. None of them were hostile. None of them were dramatic. They were just informed. And informed people make careful decisions. Within 72 hours, Bellini's supply chain began to stutter. Not collapse, not yet. Just enough friction to make everything harder. Deliveries delayed, orders requiring reconfirmation. New paperwork that nobody on their end knew how to fill out because I had always handled it. The first call came from Tanya. Not Gloria, not Marcus. Tanya. Nicole, what did you do? Tony says he can't ship until he gets some kind of authorization letter. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't do anything, Tanya. I'm just no longer authorizing things on behalf of a company that terminated me. You might want to read the contracts. She hung up. The second call came from Marcus. His voice was different. Not angry, not yet. Confused. Like a child who knocked over a vase and couldn't understand why it broke. Nick, come on. We can work this out. Mom didn't mean for it to go this way. Then, how did she mean for it to go? She thought maybe you needed a break. Some time to, figure out your own thing. Marcus, she had her attorney send me a termination letter at midnight. That's not a break. That's an eviction. Silence. Then, can you not make this harder than it has to be? There it was again. Don't make it a thing. I made it a thing. Phase 2 was the recipes. Diane sent a formal cease and desist letter to Bellini's, notifying them that 7 proprietary recipes currently on their menu were my intellectual property and that continued use without a licensing agreement would result in legal action. We included the timestamps, the original development notes, the copyright filings I had quietly submitted over the past 2 years. Every single dish that had put Bellini's on the map, the smoked chili bruschetta, the cold brew tiramisu, the hand-pulled mozzarella, the roasted garlic cream pasta, the seared scallop special, the bourbon peach cobbler, and the signature bread basket blend, all of them were mine. Documented, dated, protected. Gloria called me that night. For the first time in years, she didn't sound commanding. She sounded small. Nicole, this is family. We don't do this to family. You're right, Gloria. We don't. But you did. I was trying to protect the business. You were trying to protect control. There's a difference. She paused. What do you want? I want what I've always wanted. To be treated like I mattered. But it's too late for that now, so instead, I'll take what's legally mine. She hung up without another word. The restaurant tried to pivot. They brought in a new chef, a culinary school graduate with good credentials, but no understanding of what made Bellini's special. The new menu launched within 2 weeks. The reviews were immediate and merciless. What happened to Bellini's? One Google review, read. Went back after 2 months, and it's like a completely different restaurant. And not in a good way. Another said, the bruschetta is gone. The tiramisu is gone. Why would you remove the best things on the menu? Regulars started posting on social media. Some tagged me, not knowing the full story, but sensing something had shifted. A loyal customer who came every Friday for 3 years sent me a DM. Nicole, I don't know what happened, but Bellini's doesn't taste like you anymore. And that's a problem. That message sat with me for a long time. Tanya tried damage control. She posted a series of Instagram stories about exciting new directions and evolving the brand. The comments were not kind. Marcus stopped posting entirely. Gloria, I heard through a mutual friend, had started coming into the restaurant less and less. Meanwhile, I was busy. Not with revenge. With rebuilding. I rented a small commercial kitchen space in East Nashville. Nothing fancy, just clean, functional, mine. I started testing recipes again, not for anyone else, just for myself. The way I used to before Bellini's, before Gloria, before I forgot what it felt like to cook without someone looking over my shoulder and calling it the family recipe. I called it Solana. It means sunshine in Spanish. A nod to my grandmother who taught me to cook in her kitchen in San Antonio, where the windows faced east and the morning light hit the counter just right. I started with catering. Small events. Private dinners. Pop-ups at local markets. Word traveled fast in Nashville's food scene, especially when people recognized the flavors. Wait, is this the same person who did Bellini's menu? I heard that question 100 times. I never badmouthed the family. I never told the full story. I just smiled and said, I'm doing my own thing now. By month 3, I had a waitlist for private dining events. By month 4, a local food writer did a profile on me. She asked what inspired me to start Solana. I told her, someone once told me I was just a kitchen consultant. I decided to find out what happens when the consultant leaves. The article went semi-viral. I got calls from investors, 2 restaurant groups, and a cookbook agent. I turned down the restaurant groups. Too soon. The cookbook agent, I kept her number. I also started something I hadn't planned. A weekend workshop series for women in food, women who had built restaurants, catering companies, food trucks, only to be edged out by partners, family members, or investors who saw them as replaceable. I called the series Your Table because that's what it was about. Building a table that belongs to you, where no one can pull your chair away. The first session had 8 women. By the 3rd session, I had 32. One of them, a woman named Renee, had been pushed out of a bakery she co-founded with her ex-husband. She sat in the back, didn't say much, but at the end she grabbed my arm and whispered, I thought I was going crazy. Thank you for telling me I wasn't. That moment. That's when I knew this was bigger than me. Marcus showed up at my kitchen one afternoon, unannounced. He stood in the doorway like he used to stand in the doorway at Bellini's, hovering, half-committed. Nick, we need to talk. So, talk. Mom wants to offer you a settlement. A buyout for the recipes. Full market value plus 20%. She wants to put it behind us. And, what do you want, Marcus? He looked at his shoes. I just want things to go back to normal. Normal was me working 80-hour weeks while your family took credit for everything I built. That's not normal, Marcus. That's a scam with a family discount. He flinched. That's not fair. No. What wasn't fair was getting fired by email at midnight by your mother. What wasn't fair was watching your sister put her name on my recipes. What wasn't fair was asking you to stand up for me and hearing don't make it a thing every single time. This, what I'm doing now, this is the first fair thing that's happened to me in years. He left without another word. We filed for divorce the following month. It was quiet, clean, almost businesslike. He didn't fight for much. I think he knew. Gloria's settlement offer sat unopened on Diane's desk for 2 weeks before I formally declined it. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. Those recipes were mine, and I wasn't selling my identity back to people who tried to erase it. They'd have to build their own. Last I heard, Bellini's is still open but barely. Revenue dropped by 60%. 3 of their 5 major vendors switched to other clients. Tanya quit to go back to Atlanta. Marcus is working the front of house again, alone this time, no Instagram, no face of Bellini's anymore. Gloria hired a consultant to try to rebuild the menu. The consultant called me, actually. Asked if I'd be willing to license the recipes back to them on a temporary basis. I told her politely that I wished them well, but that chapter was closed. Some chapters have to end for the next one to begin. It's been 10 months. Solana is growing. Not fast, not flashy, but real. I have a small team now. A sous chef named Kai, who makes the best handmade pasta I've ever tasted. And an event coordinator named Daphne, who somehow manages to make every private dinner feel like a celebration, even when it's just 8 people in a rented garden. I don't think about Bellini's much anymore. Sometimes I drive past it on my way to the farmer's market, and I notice the lights look dimmer than they used to. Or maybe they always looked like that, and I was just too busy keeping them on to see. On Sundays, I go to the East Nashville farmer's market. I buy heirloom tomatoes and fresh basil, and sometimes a jar of local honey that I put in my tea. Chamomile, plain, just a little honey now. I sit on my back porch, and I cook for no one. Just for me. Just because I can. My grandmother used to say, Mija, the best meals are the ones you make when nobody's watching. That's when you cook with your whole heart. I didn't understand that then. I do now. I'm not angry anymore. Not at Gloria. Not at Marcus. Not at Tanya. Anger requires attachment, and I've let that go. What I feel instead is something quieter. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But peace. The kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to earn a seat at someone else's table and finally set your own. They thought firing me would make me disappear. Instead, it made me visible for the first time. And the email? I still have it. Printed, folded, tucked inside the first menu I designed for Solana. Not as a reminder of what they did to me, as a reminder of what they did for me. Because sometimes the people who try to erase you are the ones who accidentally hand you the pen. I wrote my own story. Every recipe, every client, every woman who walks into my workshop and realizes she's not crazy, she's just been building someone else's dream for too long. Now, I build mine. Chamomile tea, plain, just a little honey. Sunday morning light through the kitchen window. And a life that finally, completely, irreversibly belongs to me. If you're out there, and you're the one holding everything together, while everyone else takes the credit, hear me, you're not invisible. You're essential. And the moment they try to remove you is the moment they'll learn exactly how much they needed you. But by then, you won't need them. Trust me on that. Like, share, and if this story spoke to you, watch this next one. Because you're not alone in this. Not even close.